Hey there, Dennis.
Hey, Don.
Welcome. I hope we're joined by a few more people today. That'd be really great.
The hair looks bad. It's all right.
How you done?
Hi, Chris. Hey, Neville. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Oh, so many things on my plate today. That's the thing. When you're self-employed like this, it just gets to you after a while. I mean, I took, my wife and I were talking last Saturday, and we said, let's just get out of the heat. Let's just go up to Williams. So I took Sunday and Monday, and we got back Monday mid-afternoon. We went up to Williams, spent the night, um, had a couple of Bloody Marys and a steak, and came home the next day. It was really nice. God, I'm so far behind. I'm still playing catch up, and it's Friday. It's like I, too many things going on. If you can't just take a day, sometimes I think I got too many things going on. But they're all fun things that I want to do. So, the last time you were here, Dennis, did I share the agency with you?
The agency?
Yep. I
I don't
guess
think
from
so.
the sound of your voice, obviously, I did not.
No, I don't think so.
Uh, we have an agency now. I've created an agency called Visual Media Strategy. It's an agency for photographers. It's like a repping agency. I don't have any physical reps. We don't have anybody on phones, etc. That's not working anymore. So until that starts happening again, we're not going to worry about it. But I'll share the screen with you. We officially launch Monday night, Tuesday morning, and it's all directed towards small agencies, designers, and small business. Heavily towards small business. Somebody needs to, pictures for their e-commerce, etc. Um, so we do this, and then we put our photographers in under product branding, food service, or food, beverage, tabletop, lifestyle, editorial, corporate, and then by location. So if we go to by location, you can see we have some Canadian photographers. We have Europe. We have one in South Africa. We're heavy in Arizona. We got two. We're heavy in California. Got two. Heavy in Georgia. Got two. Uh, Two in New York. And then I'm trying to get to some of the other P. These are all for P52. All for P52. So if you decide you have a specialty to add to here, director or lighting director or something, well, I'll welcome you aboard on here. You know, so uh, the thing that we're doing to make it kind of interesting to people to come on here and look for stuff is we are giving away uh, one image from every photographer every month that are only available for 3 months. So January, February, March, April comes on, January's go off. And so not Unsplash, but similar to with they've got to sign up and be on our mailing list to get access to the pictures. So SEO, Google AdWords, those are our tools, and I'm hoping to get a lot of work for the folks who've gone through the workshops.
Yeah, you've been talking about this for a while, I think, in some form.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like it. That's great.
I have. I was thinking of initially about just getting back into the agency business, and I'm glad I didn't at the time I was talking about it. And this, we'll see where this grows. Remember the last time I did something like this, I was doing graphic design brochures in my office, this office here, and I turned around 3 days later and I own the third largest ad agency in Phoenix. I don't want to do that again. There's a type of person called an employee, and I never, ever, ever want another one of those. So we'll see. It's going to be fun. We're going to rock and roll. So, All right, welcome everybody. Oh, short group. I will explain. And Dennis, I tried to go in and edit that thing, and man, I couldn't edit it out.
Yeah, I don't
It
blame
was
you.
all
I'll
over.
I'll I'll do
Yeah.
better this week.
To those of you who are wondering why last week's didn't go up, Dennis didn't realize we were recording, and that recording would be going live. So he made a few very specific remarks about some very specific situations with very specific people. We thought maybe we don't need to put that on YouTube. So it won't go up. But Dennis has promised to be a little more
I'll be better this
aware.
time.
Aware, I think the word is, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, great. It's a small group, but I'm going to do this anyway. I got to pitch this for those of you who don't know. This may be one of the best photography books you'll ever buy. It has been terribly difficult to find for the last 5 years. They may have reprinted it because they're back in stock at Amazon for $55.
Oh.
Normally, I think I paid $75 for this, and I bought 2 copies. So I have 1 copy in my kit bag, and I have this copy. When you're out on location and you need 15 ways to fry an egg, or even to the point where in here she has how to prepare for a shoot. Yes, she's talking about a food shoot, but it could be any shoot at all. The preparation that goes into it. It's really a remarkable book. I recommend it heavily. I will put a link in the chat here for you guys, and then I'll put a link in the description for those who are watching. So it's amazing, amazing book. I think Neville, do you have the book? I think you do, right? Is it you? Neville may be away.
No, I'm here. No, I actually don't, but I'm right on Amazon now, which is why it took me a moment to come back to your screen.
All right.
I'm looking for it now.
Yep. There you go. I put a link in there, by the way. So
awesome, thank you.
Anyway, so many interesting things happening in photography these days, and I just think it would be fun. I always think it's fun to discuss them. But the story of Dennis going from a still shooter to the film industry is I mean, I don't know anybody else who's done that. So I mean, I'm sure you're not the only one who's done it, but I don't know that anybody else that's done it. So, it's a pretty interesting story, and I'd like to discuss it with you more.
You got it.
So how do you market yourself? Is that something that you do word of mouth mostly, or
Well,
boards, or
there is the old saying, work begets work, is very, very true in this industry. There are when getting started is the hardest part, and it takes some time. It takes you have to really, really want to do it. That's probably the most important part, is just deciding that that's what you want and then chasing after it.
Well, that's no different than being a commercial photographer.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, I am a commercial photographer, and the way that we get hired is a little different. And we're not 1099, we're W-2 employees, but we still are basically gig workers. Because when the show is over, the company closes, and then we're basically unemployed after that. But the way that I get work now is different than where I was trying to get before. So most of the photo jobs come out of LA. That's where the studios are located, and basically what I do for set stills is I work for distribution. So I'm hired directly by the studios most of the time. There are smaller independent productions that may hire somebody who comes in through the production, but on these bigger shows, it's all through the studios. So the trick to it, I think, in my mind, is putting yourself in a position to kind of be discovered. So letting people know that you exist and that you can do the job. I mean, when they look at your website, they you have maybe 30 seconds to show them that you can do the job. And that's the very basic part of that. Can they shoot in a way that they can do the job? Then you also have to fit in with the crew and with what they're shooting. If there's a show that has a lot of action or a lot of explosions, and you don't have that on your portfolio, they're going to scroll right past you and find someone who's more experienced with, with stunts or with buildings exploding or that sort of thing. So in terms of getting started and how you find your path into Hollywood is everyone's got a unique story, and it all usually involves preparation and opportunity and getting lucky. Honestly, that is a factor.
What about working for access? Do photographers do that? I know directors sometimes work for free initially to get their, so they can do a movie.
If you don't have a portfolio, then you may have to work for nothing. I did that. I did do, I basically did what was an NYU graduate thesis feature film for, I went to New York and I had a person who was doing sound, and she gave my name to the director, and I met with her and a couple of the producers, because this is, you think student film has no budget. This was, it had a budget. Fairly decent budget for this kind of a thing, and we shot for I think 2 months or something. But I was able to get a portfolio, and there was enough well-known actors to show that I had some experience. Because a lot of it is your personality. If you're not good on set, you're weird around famous people, then it's going to be very hard to fit in there. So you really have to have the right sort of, they call it setiquette. Because when I'm on a shoot, my own personal, or if I'm, someone's hired me to do headshots or something, I'm the director of my shoot. And on a film set, it's not your vision, it's not your shoot. You don't have the best angle, and no one's going to open the door and just let you in. You have to kind of find your shots around everybody else. So there is a part of the art of the job is figuring out when you can go into the set to do your job, because if the director is having a private rehearsal, you cannot be there for that. If they're lighting, if the grips are moving stuff, or the set dresser is moving something around, that's the wrong time to be there. So there's a finite time when you go in, find your spot, and then not be in the way.
Yeah, here in my early days, I worked with the ASU design department, and for 2 years, I volunteered to photograph the designers' finished products and do the stuff. That didn't lead to a lot of work, but it led to enough work that it made it worth my while to do it. A, and B, it was fun. The problem with graphic design at university is that kids come out of graphic design at university, they want to go to be a graphic designer, which doesn't pay them enough to pay back the student loan. So they get a job at Kinko's or somewhere like that, and then never go back to it. It's a degree that sits on the wall. But those that did stick with graphic design, 3 or 4 of them hired me. We had a good relationship with several of them. So many of them moved out of state and stuff. Doing work for, quote, free, that's not really, to me, it's not working for free. It's working for access. It's working with a goal down the road. Working for free would be, photographing the new cobblestone car wash up here. By the way, good thing you're not here anymore. Remember Water and Ice?
Yeah.
On Chandler?
Oh yeah.
It's now cobblestone, and the car washing prices are $25.
Wow.
What is that?
That's Well, that wouldn't fly up here.
No, it doesn't fly
Where,
here.
where it rains every other day.
Doesn't fly here. I don't go. Anyway,
Wow.
Dennis used to live
Yes.
down the street from me, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So,
I guess Arizona is turning into LA East.
I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, working for Access can really open up a lot of doors. And there
Yeah.
are, wherever you are, there's film schools, there's universities, there are young people with projects. Call the university, offer to work with some of those young people. Never can tell what's going to happen. We all know the story of uh, Steven Spielberg, right? Going on the set, he didn't belong there. He just started walking on, acting like he belonged at the set, found an empty trailer in the back lot, put a sign on the door, was there for almost 18 months before somebody discovered he was there. And by that time, he was first name basis with directors and lighting people and everybody else. And the next year, he got his first, big directorial thing, which is a television show. Does anybody remember Steven Spielberg's very first movie? It starred one person.
I know what it is. I'm not gonna say because I know what it is.
Anybody? One person was Dennis Weaver, and the movie was Duel.
Yeah,
About a guy being stalked by somebody in a truck.
Yeah,
and it is if if you ever get a chance to see it, because you will be on the edge of your seat. One guy in a car being stalked by a truck, and you're at the edge of your seat gripping it. It was so well done.
Is there even anyone in the truck, or is it just the truck?
You see his boots, getting
I don't think you ever even see the person in the truck.
No, you never see the person in the truck. Never see his face. You see his boots as he gets in once, but you never see his face. And there's a scene in a diner where there's some extras sitting around, but other than that, it's all Dennis Weaver. Oh yeah. Man. Hey, Dennis, want to be in a movie? Yeah.
Well,
that's my part. Sort of the entire movie, Dennis. It's pretty much the entire movie. That's what it is.
The nature of the business is highly relational. So your ability to get along with people, to work with people in stressful situations, to have somebody chew your head off and then have coffee with them at lunch sometimes.
Yep. No difference. No different in commercial still photography. None.
They say that that the number one rule outside of taking care of your feet is don't cause drama on set. And what they mean by drama is not like, having a temper tantrum, but really just drawing any additional attention to yourself. The whole thing is not about you at all. You're just a cog in the machine to help to get this vision onto a screen somewhere. And everyone has a part in it. It's not really about any one person. So if you have trouble working in collaboratively, then, you're going to have trouble working in this kind of industry. But if you think about it, your own film set where you have your camera and your set dressing, or your set or your location, you have your subject, and you have the things that they're holding, their props. It's all the same thing, just on a smaller scale. And so while we have 300 people working every day, you might have one or two. And I've done plenty of shoots like that too, where you're just setting up your own stuff. You're your own prop master, you're your own set deck, you're your own director. And the unit stills is a bit of a transition, because it's not your set. You are stealing shots for sure. And you're supposed to be there stealing shots, but nothing is set up for where I'm located. I'm an afterthought. I have to kind of sneak in. And a lot of times what I'm doing is, like yesterday, I don't have a camera with me, but more or less I was, the big camera is here and I'm sitting here right above it, one hand focusing with my thumb and actuating with my finger. And that's how it goes sometimes. Other times you get a little better angle, but you have to shoot the actors when they're lit properly. So you have to also be very close to the main cameras. Otherwise your shot won't look right and it won't get used anyway. Because of
fly a drone right over the camera and just, like over the main camera, a little drone.
Practically. We do use drones quite a bit, but that's a whole other department that I've got nothing to do with. The drone people they're vendors that come in usually for a day or two here and there, but they have their own drone operator, camera. They have a drone pilot, an operator, and a spotter at a minimum to shoot this way, because we can't do anything that's without permits and without permission. We have to follow a lot of strict rules, and most of it is for safety. Because drones do go down, and if a drone is carrying an 8-pound camera, that's going to hurt. Or in some cases, a 20-pound camera rig, on the bottom, if they're using like an octocopter or something.
Following the rules sometimes means you got to look those rules up.
Yeah.
There are so many horror stories about New York City and crews not getting a permit. Now the permits are free, but you have to go get the permit, and the permits are specific.
Yeah, and the lead time is
west corner of 22nd and Broadway, not the not the southwest corner.
It's the lead time is hard on those. They want like 90 days or 2 months, and sometimes you just, most film shoots, our schedule has been changed quite a lot by weather, by scheduling, by a number of factors, and we have days where we'll have a drone team there and they don't work. They get paid and they go home, and we'll do that shot another day. It happens that way. And thankfully I don't have to make those kind of decisions, because that would be awful, having to know that you had a crew sitting there all day that you paid and then they didn't do anything. But it happens. It's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
It's
I had
pretty
a really good friend that worked on the set of Law and Order, the original Law and Order. I don't think it's even around anymore. I think SVU is the only Law and Order in the States. But they would hire freelance almost anything if they were doing a shoot where they needed a lot of location work. And the freelancers would take their paperwork and then go up the line, get the permit, go back, get in line, because you could get one permit per time to the window, and get back in line and go back up and get another one. Now, I think that's changed. I think you can actually get a set now, because New York, at the time, it was really weird that New York would make it so hard on the.
It's not that way anymore. New York is one of the easiest places to shoot. It's very, very easy to shoot.
Yeah, I heard that that even canceled some of the restrictions for tripods, et cetera, if you're not blocking the streets. But man, and back in the 80s and 90s, it was a nightmare.
There are some areas in New York, like the Port Authority doesn't want you to put down a duffel bag, which, okay, I get that. If you're in a subway station, you can't put a tripod down. They're like, shoot whatever you want. You can have somebody holding a light. You can do almost anything except for certain weird little rules, like no tripods or no setting anything down.
Yeah, you can't put a stand down, but in New York, you can have 2 assistants holding flashes on a pole.
Yep.
And shoot on the street. No one will bug you unless you're blocking traffic. And there's always that's a gray area. So don't be an idiot, right, when you're doing it. And by the way, same thing in LA. Same thing in LA. There's all kinds of little restrictions. You've got to know what you're going to do. But if you're not putting anything down, you can be, pretty okay with it.
And it's funny that New Yorkers, people that live there, I've done a couple photo shoots where I'm blocking the entire sidewalk, line of sight sidewalk. People will just stop, or they'll go around, or they'll just leave you alone. If you're in a touristy area, then people will bother you. But if you're just in like some non-touristy part of the city, somewhere in the village, or NoHo or something, nobody cares. They're just like, oh, photo shoot, I'll just go around. It's funny that way.
I can remember walking around Chelsea down by the water.
Yeah, by the piers.
And there'd be one or two times we walked through, there had to be a half dozen photo shoots going on.
Yeah.
About every corner where you were, it was late summer. So they're shooting, at that time they're shooting fashion for fall, not spring. Spring was shot in the winter. In the summer, you're shooting fall. In those days, today it's all because of digital. It's closer, but And there were shoots everywhere, just Winnebagos on, opposing corners and the whole bit.
Yeah. It is the only thing about New York that I would have it's not an issue, but it's not fun schlepping your gear around New York City. That's the only bad part. Because when I go to set, I go with like a Rubbermaid cart, and I've got, a Pelican and a backpack and a little bag with like cords, and, I got a rain bag and cold weather stuff. And, you have to go prepared on a film set for anything, because if it starts raining or if it's super cold or if it's really muddy, no one's going to tell you that. You just have to be prepared for it. You have to be prepared for anything.
Yeah, my friend that shoots there is a videographer now, Jan. Um, what is Jan's last name? All of a sudden, Jan Klier, Klier.
Mhm.
Jan is. He said the number one thing that you have to know and to be a videographer, photographer, whatever, is logistics.
Yeah.
It's all logistics. How do you get this much stuff to where you need it to be?
Yeah.
And you got a third floor walk up where they're doing the shoot that day, and you've got 3 trips to up with your gear. Do you leave your gear on the sidewalk? Not a good idea.
No, you don't.
It's logistics. You have to, figure out how you're going to get it up there, and then do it. And it's fascinating to me.
That's what our locations department, the way that it works is they'll scout locations, and in a city like Pittsburgh, there's kind of like, we have a half a dozen places that get used over and over again. They're film friendly. They're old buildings that are, empty, that you can turn into something else. There's some, we're right now we're filming on this place called the Westinghouse Churchill site, where I guess they used to smash the atom, but now it's sort of a rundown place that Amazon bought. We were hoping they would turn it into a backlot, because there's a great big building complex, and there's been other productions that have been based out of there. We have a double wide and a cabin built on the back side of it, in the kind of like, it looks like the middle of nowhere. And that's going to be an Amazon distribution center now. Which is kind of a shame, because we're losing a good filming spot here, but we'll see, we get something else. But basically locations goes out, it spots out the location, and then later on we'll have a tech scout, or the DP and a couple people from camera and some other people will figure out how to get all of our trucks into this area, because our show is not, like, we have probably 8 or 9 semi trucks that go with us. We have a truck that's just gasoline, just to support all of our stuff. We've got 7 or 8 passenger vans to get us from base camp to set. I mean, it's a whole big production. And this show, I guess this shows that I think it's coming out this fall. So we're under the gun. It was supposed to come out last year, and I think it's supposed to come out this fall. So we'll see how it goes. They've released one photo of mine that I've seen so far, but that's all I know about.
Very cool.
But I'd love to talk about the photo, but it's not really that interesting. So
where did they use to smash the atom? I lost track of where you're speaking of.
This is in Pittsburgh, just on the east side of, in Pittsburgh. There's an old Westinghouse factory.
Oh.
And, if you go to it, it looks like Chernobyl. There's like even old little retail places inside there where it would support the whole like big scientific community there.
Yeah.
And it's been abandoned for a while, and so it's been a place where a lot of films shoot, because there's like an office building, so if you need an office interior, you can work out of that. There's offices enough to house a whole production. There was a show, I'm Your Woman, was the production office was there. I think some of it was filmed in there. And I think also I'm Not Okay With This was filmed there too. That's a show on Amazon or something. So yeah, there's if you walk around the area enough, there's like this big, it looks like an atom bomb where they used to smash atoms inside there. I guess they were working on the nuclear testing a long time ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not always, we all wonder if like the dirt out there is radioactive or something.
You don't even have to bring batteries, just put a cord in the ground, right?
Yeah, almost. Almost. But It's an interesting looking place. It's not the most accessible all the time, but it's good for shooting for sure. If you need to build a house and burn it down, it's a good place to do it. That's been done there several times.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, there's the similarities of what you chose to do photographically and, being a food shooter are pretty much in tune with each other.
Well, it's funny.
People, and I was just working with a young man yesterday with his portfolio, and he was like, well, I want my portfolio to speak for itself. And I said, yeah, that ain't never going to happen. Just no one's ever going to just look at pictures and go, yeah, you're the person. They want to know who you are. They have to spend all day with you or all week with you or something. They believe me, who you are is a big part of it. And sometimes who you are can actually win over how good your work is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your personality goes a long way, a lot more than you think. It's not just about the end product. Like you said, you do have to spend all day with people and you have to be able to get along. So if you're a curmudgeon or you're someone who gets flustered and stressed out when there's a problem, then you might not be in the right industry. If it's really high stress and you only get one or two chances, we do several takes for the main camera, but they don't do any takes for me. So if you don't get in there and get your shots, then or if you don't get along with one of the camera operators or one of the many other people on set, people can deny you access very easily, and you might not even realize that they're doing it. So, having everyone at least having a good working relationship is very important. And I think, crewing up a film crew is like putting a puzzle together. The pieces all have to fit to a degree.
I think it was the number one reason I used to tell photographers to start a blog so that your personality could come out in your blog, how you're talking about clients, how you're working with clients. I got pushback because they said, well, yeah, but the top photographers don't have blogs. Well, Chris Chrisman did, and Chris Chrisman would be in the top 20 photographers in the world right now.
But everybody knows them now. They don't need a blog if everybody.
He doesn't have one now, but
Right.
he had one all through the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 80s and 90s. I'm sorry, no, 2000s through I think about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
When he stopped it, but everybody he has probably more work than he can handle or that he necessarily wants.
Yeah.
But if you're an unknown person, let people in a little bit. Let them see your process. Let them see your sense of humor. Let them see your attention to detail. I saw somebody else, by the way, say something kind of scary. He said, don't do it on YouTube because then the people in the industry think you're a YouTuber and that can damage you. And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I also can see how it possibly could be.
I think if your production quality on YouTube exceeds the quality of your product, then that's a problem.
I think the other thing is on YouTube, it depends on what you're doing. If you're out there trying to hustle other photographers into buying your actions and your Photoshop stuff, then gray advertising really may not be interested in hiring you. If you're out there trying to help the community, build relationships and stuff along with your photography, that could work. But if you're putting up inferior photographs talking about how you used a film camera to do them, nobody's going to buy that shit. It's over. You're just talking to other wannabe photographers.
You cannot underestimate the value of person-to-person meetings. Even in this COVID time now, you cannot. That's probably the most important part of this whole thing. I don't think I would have got on a film set in New York from Instagram or from emailing people. They just don't know anything. All you are is some words on a page and a name. It just doesn't mean anything. And so I figured out a couple of years ago, that all the hiring for my position comes from LA, and I better meet some people in LA. So I went out and I networked, and I was able to meet a few people who came from my part of the country, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, here's what I'm trying to do." And they said, "Well, 8 years ago I was a bartender in Cleveland, and now I'm a top shooter for all these TV shows in LA." And they're like, "I'll help you out because I understand what you're going through. I know how hard it is." And so I was able to get to show my portfolio to a couple of the big film labs in LA, which are very influential as far as like referring people. They see all your work. They're the ones who do all the editing and all of the processing and all of the galleries for kills and approvals and everything. So they recommend people pretty frequently. And if you're not in good with them, then it's one more thing that's just going to make it difficult to find work. In terms of, this industry is a little different because the amount of people who do the hiring is very, very small. I mean, probably less than 100, maybe even less than that. And the industries are consolidating too. Now that Disney's buying Fox and Amazon's buying MGM, you only have a few players. So you're either in kind of the CBS or NBC or Disney or Netflix, and the people who do the hiring sometimes move from one company to another too. So it's hard to keep track of them. And I'll tell you, one of the things that a friend told me about, because he was talking to one of the photo supervisors who does hiring, and he said, "Why is it so hard for us to get in contact with you?" And he meant, the general photographers and people who hire photographers. And she goes, "Let me play you a voicemail real quick." And she played a voicemail of someone who said they had just bought a camera, they really like movies, they want to work in the industry, and they know they can do it. And it's like they get bombarded all the time for people looking for work. But what they're looking for is not, they're looking for someone to do to fit the thing that they're looking for, not the other way around. So beating down doors is not always the best route. Sometimes just putting yourself in a position that people can find you means a lot too. And I think having a blog is a great idea. I think having a YouTube channel is not bad either, as long as it's not your main source of revenue.
And as long as you keep your voice to the professionals and not to the amateurs, there's nothing wrong with the people teaching amateurs. I'm not saying that there is. I mean, that's really great.
No, not at all.
Absolutely. But if your voice is to them, then you're another one of that crowd. If your voice is more to the professionals or more to stuff that everybody can learn from or everybody sees a value in, then that can be something as well. However, if you're putting out 3 videos a week, you're not going to be seen as somebody who's serious about the industry, because you can't work a job like Dennis has or a job like Stephanie has, and she just got back from California. We want to hear about that in a minute. You can't do that and put out content like the other stuff. That in that particular case, people like Peter McKinnon, for one name, Peter McKinnon. Peter McKinnon's not a photographer; he's a YouTuber. 3 half-hour videos a week. That's your life, man.
Yeah.
I mean, even sitcoms only do 1 a week. And look, and how many people does it take to put together a sitcom? I mean, I see like the end of the sitcoms and the credits roll forever.
They don't include everybody in those credits either.
Yeah, the guy who the pie cutter. I mean, it's all that stuff, but the point is a lot of people put together a half-an-hour TV show, and like 1 or 2 people are doing vlogs and stuff like that. The content creation has got to be off the chart, and anybody in the industry would know. So yeah, YouTube now and then. I'm surprised that photographers haven't used YouTube to show their portfolios. It still blows me away. You can drag all your images into iMovie, make a thing, put a little soundtrack behind, which you can get free, nice little soundtrack behind it, an opening credit thing, who you are, whatever, and stick it on YouTube. Then you can embed it on your website, you can embed it in your video, your emails, etc. But people enjoy watching video. It's surprising how many people will watch video who won't read your blog. So why not do both? And, kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, I think, the thing, like for me right now, I would never have time to do any of that. I don't even really have time to look at my Facebook or do anything on Instagram. I'm either at work or I'm exhausted. And so I think there is that kind of that, like you said before, that balance of like, are you doing 3 videos a week and what are you really doing? Are you really a YouTuber or are you really trying to do this other thing? So I think if you're still looking for the role that you want to be in, then yeah, everything you're saying is correct. But
Yeah.
once you're kind of there, then you don't really necessarily need to do it.
And I want to clarify that there's absolutely nothing wrong in being a YouTuber like Peter McKinnon.
No, of course
Nothing
not.
wrong with it at all.
No, not at all.
I think there's a difference where it's like I'm getting ready to start actually on. If I'm not in my basement, as you can see, I got a new desk and I've got lights, my camera and everything. I'm going to start doing tutorials on Squarespace to put on YouTube. But I don't want to be like Peter McKinnon where it's like, this is my life and here's my wife and we're going to go do this and this. Like, I don't want to be a personality.
I don't want to say it's night and day, Mark, but it's very close to night and day.
Yeah.
When you go to Peter McKinnon's website, he seems like a nice guy and he does a lot of content that's really pretty interesting. When you go there, it's about him.
Yep.
He is the show. What you're talking about is presenting things from what's it called? It's when you put things together. You're not an archivist. You're
An editor, basically.
Yeah, like an editor. That's a very good. Yeah, that's a good term. You're an editor. You're finding things and putting it together. Sometimes those things get a little gray in the middle, but that's really up to you.
Yeah, I kind of envision not that I would get the Flern following or the Pixin Perfect, but it's like you see Aaron Nace or you see Amish, and they're teaching how to do this thing. They're not showing you all of this other stuff. It's about the information.
That's right. But both of those are YouTubers. Both of those are monetized YouTube plans. I would say more like Dan Milner. More like Dan Milner. A guy who did it, walked away from it. Now he's the creative evangelist for Blurb. He's not trying to sell you photography. He's not trying to sell you a lifestyle blog or any of that stuff. He's just giving back to the community for 30 years being in the business. Yeah. Something like that would make sense. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens because YouTube is now in their terms and services changed it up. I don't know if you guys noticed, but if you put up a video now, Google has the right to monetize it if you don't. So, I do not monetize my videos. I don't get that many hits, but the last thing I want to have is a video that gets 350 people looking at it and they're getting a pre-roll. It's like, no, not. I'd be embarrassed as hell.
They're going to put that on though, aren't they? Like if you don't monetize it yourself, they're just going to start.
Yeah, they have not said they're going to everybody's videos. They're saying they may look at your demographics. They may decide you've got enough viewers. They may put one on that you did today, Mark, and it's not there tomorrow. They're just saying, don't be surprised if you go to one of your YouTubes and there's a pre-roll on it. So
I think to your point, Don, that relying on a platform for your income is very risky because even Instagram is turning into a shopping platform.
Yeah. Do not build your house on somebody else's land.
It's the equivalent of being in a trailer park.
The people who get burned are the people who built up, for instance, in the late 2015 or 2016, Facebook purged all the fan pages. Remember that? People had their entire business on Facebook in what they used to be called fan pages. Then they're called pages, and now they're still called just pages. They had businesses on those pages. And then Facebook came in and said, oh, and before I tell you that, they would, Facebook would encourage you to go out and find visitors. They had all kinds of tools, how to get more people to your Facebook page. And so some people had 50, 60, 70,000 people coming to their page buying t-shirts or buying tchotchke or imported teas. It was big business. And in one day, Facebook said, well, we are now going to limit the people who visit your page, and there's nothing you can do about it, and put 25,000 businesses out of business. And there's nothing you can do. You know, Facebook was in charge. You had no contract with Facebook. You weren't paying Facebook for it. You built your house on somebody else's land. I remember fighting the meme that people were saying is like, oh, you don't need a blog, use Facebook. You don't need a blog, use Instagram. It's free. Don't worry about your blog. Go to Instagram. Until they shut you down. Until Instagram accidentally kills your account for good, because sometimes they can recover it and sometimes they can't.
And sometimes they won't.
And sometimes they won't. And by the way, if there's a problem on Facebook, who do you guys call? I want to know who y'all call, you know, if there's a problem. It won't load right or something. You know, I'm sure the Facebook people are standing by, right? Ready to help. There's nobody to call. It's like Google. There's no one there to take your call. They're never going to take your call. Facebook, Instagram, none of them. LinkedIn, they don't care. So I think it's fine for a photographer to have an Instagram account. Knock yourself out. But if you're doing it thinking it is a valid marketing ploy, wow, don't do that. That's building a house on somebody else's land, and they can pull it right out from underneath you anytime.
Yeah, I think the trick really is to build your thing there and then get it off as soon as you can. If you've built your thing there, then you need to migrate it to another place.
Yeah,
or have a backup.
I really think that artists, creative people are blowing it by not having their own platform. Just get a WordPress blog and get it out there. You own the platform. You can still, there's no rule that says, oh, you have a blog, you can't be on Facebook. You can still be on Facebook. You can still do Instagram if you want. You can still do whatever you want, but you make your base home on yours. You do not lose your stories. You do not lose your photographs. You do not lose your reach. You know, none of that. We're seeing a slight resurgence. I expected more with COVID. You know, Dennis, I really expected a lot more people to jump into that, but there is the lazy factor is high.
The COVID? I'm not sure what you mean.
I figured with COVID and people having time and looking to produce something. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but seriously, is Facebook the best place to put your best writing and your photography? I mean, have you ever tried to find something you saw 3 days ago on Facebook? It's ridiculous. You can't find it. There's no archiving. There's no sense of anything important. Dan Milner goes so far as to say, don't put anything important. Any photographs that you consider important, don't put them on the internet.
Well, the whole thing about Facebook, what keeps you drawn in is the idea that there's new stuff. So it's basically Pavlovian. Every time you hit refresh, something new comes up. So it doesn't benefit them to show you old stuff. And
all those people that are wrong that need to be taught the right way about pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Did you see that Ricky Gervais little skit on Twitter? He said Twitter is like walking into the town square and seeing a bulletin board, and up there's a little thing that says guitar lessons.
Yeah.
And you go, I don't want any fucking guitar lessons. You pull it down and you call the guy, I don't want any fucking guitar. It's like, that's Twitter. And I laughed my ass off because he nailed it. He just nailed it. Nobody can go, yeah, I don't care about that. Everybody has to get into it. There's no point in putting your serious work next to your neighbor's kids' Instagram pictures. Context is everything. Do you want to be hanging in a gallery with Ansel Adams on one side and Jay Mizell on the other side? Or do you want to be next to Bobby's cat picture in somebody's Instagram feed? If you can't see the difference, you're missing the point of what we do. Doesn't mean you can't have a very curated Instagram post, but I would, and I'm flipped 100%, by the way. I used to tell photographers, put your best work on Instagram. If you taught me 8 years ago, put your best work on Instagram. It's a curated portfolio that you want people to see. And now I say, pick something fun, shrubs, plants, desserts, anything but your serious work for Instagram. Make it fun, make it personal, make it somebody, I'd love to meet Dennis. He's got a really funny Instagram, he photographs, crazy signs. Do that. Don't put your best work there, because your best work will be dragged into the sewer of all the other crap that's on Instagram.
I pretty much only do iPhone photos on Instagram.
Exactly.
I have a few photos that are up that, if somebody wants to scroll through my page to see that I've worked on, something big, which is in my industry is important. Who you've worked with before matters to who you're going to work for next. And so you're always trying to go up to the pointy end of the industry. But Instagram, like you said, I'll do stories that disappear because I can track who looks at them, and what they do with it. And it's always just like stuff I happen upon, and I think that shows more of your photographic personality than something that you staged.
Exactly.
How you wander down the street and what you look at and what do you find interesting?
And it's very interesting. I follow a young photographer who's really big on Instagram. I mean, million plus Instagram followers, huge YouTube following, and that's his thing. YouTube and Instagram, and he's a hip young guy. And he made the statement just last month that since the lockdown came, he's a LA photographer. Since the lockdown came, he had not shot one single commercial job. And all my Project 52 people are shooting because he's depending on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube to get him jobs. And when things go to ground, as they say, when everything gets really serious, that's not enough. My friend Doug, who was struggling the year before COVID, had a banner year last year. He had a big year last year from stock and video, and the fact that he got on the phone and called every one of his clients that he had known over the last 10 years, called every one of them, told him his studio was in his home. He could shoot anything there. He had a bang up year. Meanwhile, Mr. Hip, and he's a nice guy. I'm not knocking him, but Mr. Hip, you got to have a YouTube, you got to have a Instagram channel. That's where all the stuff's happening. Yeah, no, it wasn't happening.
It's definitely adapt or die right now. I mean, 100%. And post-COVID, it's going to be different than what we're going through right now. We have a whole COVID department on our set, and I don't want to get into that too much, but it's I think we all hope it goes away at some point. But it's a whole cottage industry right now that's building up from COVID. I'm like, what if COVID stops? Or what are all these industries going to do?
Yeah, I worry about it too. I think the mask industry probably has a pretty good sized lobby right now.
Yeah.
So
they all do.
Yeah, we'll see how that works.
I mean, there's tracing apps now. There's little devices that can be worn so they can contact Tracy and see where you're going. And some of these things you volunteer for, and other of these things are, you don't really know what the whole scope of it, when you're using it. So it is interesting to see how this COVID has grown into every part of our everything where it wasn't there before.
No, and it shouldn't be now, but that's where we are.
Yeah,
I'll let
and
you-
when it started, the industry came up with some protocols of, because a lot of people didn't, you know, if you work in film, almost I have always gotten sick working, always. This is the first show I've done where I haven't gotten sick. You know, because there are the safety protocols for everyone wearing a mask means that everyone's other colds that they had before aren't getting transmitted around.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why I don't have a problem with wearing a mask.
No, I don't either.
I have a problem being told to. I don't have a problem actually doing it, because I didn't get my my usually yearly bad cold or flu or anything. I got a little head cold, but other than that, I'm like, well, could it have been that simple? All these years of being sick all the time.
Yeah, it is. It's that simple. People cough on you all the time.
We got everybody to wash their hands and cover their mouth when they cough. It's
like,
it happened in kindergarten when they taught us that. Like, isn't that already,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't have a problem. I go down to Safeway, and if it's a crowded Safeway, if it's like 5 p.m, I put my mask on. I don't want to get sick. COVID doesn't worry me because I already had it. What worries me is getting the flu or a cold, or somebody sneezing on me and giving me something else. The mask works for me. So,
and I'll say I'm still all for keeping people 6 feet away from me. Anyways, that's fine.
I've been that way for 30 years, Mark. So it's so different. No.
I like
you
going to
want
the
me to come to a
grocery store,
party?
everybody's like getting out of the way so you can get down the aisle and.
Yeah. You want me to come to a party? Really? When is it? Yeah, can't make it. Have a good day. Stephanie, I wanted to check in with Stephanie because she just did a bunch of days in the desert. How are you? Oh, no audio.
Audio.
Nope, no audio now. Uh-oh. We're losing Stephanie. I got to find out. She was like traipsing all over the Palm Springs area, shooting power lines that go in. Stephanie, by the way, Dennis, Stephanie is an Arizona photographer who lives on a ranch like 2 hours from Tucson or something. I mean, it's way out in the middle of nowhere.
Huh.
And she's doing well as a photographer. You just have no audio.
You got to go back to the desert where you had good signal.
Yeah, it's like, as she called in last week, she was in a hotel in Palm Springs. She had really good signal. Now she's back down in Murfreesburg or something, wherever that is.
Testing.
There you go.
Yay. Okay. You can hear me now?
Was that an operator error?
I don't know. No, I was going to show one picture.
Sure. Hold on. Let me do that. There you go.
Share screen. Go share. That you guys were just talking about relationship building, and I think it's so. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Just relationship building, and so the director's on the right side, of course, cameraman. And this time I was actually able, because I've worked with them enough now, he wasn't standing in the right spot. So even though they're in the middle of shooting, in the middle of the interview, I was able to like reach out with my arm and scoot him over just a little bit to place him where I wanted him to be. And, and of course, it's nice to have built up a relationship to be able to do stuff like that. And the other thing was,
where's this facility? California or?
I don't know that I should mention California. It's at a high desert mountain.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a little community that the power company installed a solar installation, and this is actually hoping to be one of the first entire towns that's going to be completely off grid, run by solar and batteries.
Boy, that's going
So-
to make California Electric really happy.
It's a little nonprofit co-op.
Very
But-
cool.
It's also nice with these guys after, like I said, getting more comfortable, is that I'm able to get them to pause in between things to get the shots that I need, like knowing kind of how they run things. So I know when I'm able to jump in and say, hey, quick, could you stand there? Could you do this? To get the shots anyways in
Yeah.
between.
Very cool.
One of the ladies that helped build the solar field. And then some of the guys that worked on it. So anyways, that's it.
Boy, right out there in the middle of the day.
Yes, noon every day, noonday sun. That's the life right there. Golden hour. I don't even know what a golden hour is.
Interesting.
But anyways, I was thinking about how important the relationship, the personality, that's so important in all of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, for those of you who came in late, I was hawking this book. It is back at Amazon. I'll put a link in. There's a link in chat right now. It's back at Amazon for $55. And I think, like I said before, I paid $75 for this. So could be a reprinting. Maybe they found a box of them somewhere. Who knows? But they're back at Amazon for a really good price. It may be one of the top 5 photo books ever. As far as food styling and everything, it's got everything in it. But it also talks about shoots and relationships and planning out a shoot, a tabletop type shoot, what you need to do. It's pretty great, pretty darn great. All right, I put in the blurb, if you brought a photograph for us to look at, now's the time to share it with us. Anybody got something they want to share? Anybody?
I've got one.
All right, well, go ahead, share away.
But it's on the Facebook. It's over on Project 52 Facebook. Do you want me to go over there?
No, I do that.
Okay.
I just looked at that. It looks like a very surreal photo with it being in. You're talking about the black and white when you put up?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you. I'm going back there this summer. It's Great Sand Dunes National Park.
That's in southern Colorado, right?
Yes. It's near Alamosa.
Alamosa, yeah.
And I'm meeting friends there in August to do Milky Way photography.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I've never been there. I've heard about it, but I've never been to Alamosa.
Mhm.
But I've never been to the sand dunes. I'd like to do that.
It's one of the National Dark Sky Preserves.
Oh, okay. Pretty dark out there. Away from,
Yeah.
Alamosa isn't all that going to make all that much light. It's pretty tiny.
Yeah, it is pretty tiny.
That's very cool. Beautiful shot. Now, does this?
Can you share it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, he just wanted to see what it looks like.
He didn't want to share it.
There we go. It looks like it's very filmic. Now, is this obviously digital converted to black and white?
Right.
And what did you use for conversion?
I use a combination of Camera Raw and I might have used Nick filters on this one. It's been quite a while. But or maybe Topaz filters. I've used both. And I also use Photoshop. So it's what I feel like that day.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of
it. A lot of times I'll go to Photoshop and use the channel mixer.
Yep. Well, channel mixer gives you that's basically like putting filters on your, it's like with a channel mixer, you can apply a red filter to your scene and have it work just like a red filter on your camera would have worked.
And I also use Tony Kuiper luminosity masks like that. I probably use that in the trees to get some, sort of local contrast, micro contrast, whatever you call it in the trees.
Well, if you put a red filter on it, it's going to darken the trees. Red's going to darken blue quite a bit, and it's going to darken green probably 40%. So when you're out, with your view camera, you're always trying to figure out which ones. I ended up using orange more than red here in Arizona because I wanted more texture in my trees, and orange will darken the sky. Not as much as red, but darken the sky, but it doesn't really affect the green as much as the red would do it. So that's what I like about channel as well. What's that?
Would the red flatten the green? Is that what you're saying?
It darkens it.
Darkens
it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially leaves, because leaves are being reflected from the sky.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of blue sky already in the leaf from the reflection, and the red just kills the blue, just darkens it on top of an already dark color green.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
Nicely done. Yeah. Anyone else? No one?
Don, if you wanna, I can send you an article that was out from the show that I'm on right now. I'd rather just show it to you on the newspaper site than send it to you directly.
Okay.
I think I gotta find it first. I don't know where it is. Let me get you a link really fast.
Have you ever shot film, Denise?
Only in my younger days, and it was just, drugstore development.
I could really see you out with a nice medium format camera.
Yeah, I wish.
The zen of that is amazing.
I'm still thinking about getting a 4x5 in that photodiox back. It's just that I've bought so many toys lately that, the old cameras that I've been buying are like candy. I'm addicted. Even though I haven't gotten a single roll of film back, they're just so cute and inexpensive, and have a couple that fold.
The Graflex has the correct back for the photodiox, so picking up a Graflex.
Oh yeah, I plan to do so. It's just that I get out the latest toy and forget the previous 4 that I bought.
Sure.
So I want to make sure I get plenty of time in on the film cameras that I bought before I go to the 4x5.
And well, film 4x5 can be terribly expensive.
Well, the Graflex, I think I can probably pick one up for something less than 500.
Oh yeah, somewhere between 3 and 4 actually on I've seen them on.
Yeah, me too.
All right, this is cool. This is who is this gentleman here?
Dennis? That's Jeff Daniels.
Okay, I thought I recognized him. It's about American Rust is about cops, cop show.
American Rust is based on a book by a guy named Philip Meyer. And the book it's a little different than the show from what I've heard. I don't have access to the script, which I don't necessarily need, but whenever you're adapting a book into a visual media, things always tend to change a little bit. But Jeff Daniels plays a police chief in a small Western Pennsylvania town in the Rust Belt. And the story is it's sort of a family drama about a couple of younger guys who have a mishap and sort of go on the run. But Jeff Daniels plays the police chief of this. They created a town called Buell, which would be south of here, about 40 miles where I am right now.
Okay.
And so the costume he's wearing is, they've made all the police insignias and everything for for his uniform, and that is the shot there is not. I wish it were a more dynamic shot, but I don't. This is the only one that's been released so far. This shot though is not. It was not the easiest shot to get, just because of where I was located. I was kind of behind. Movie set lighting is extensive, and there is a lot of things to consider when you're shooting in a condition like this. So I use a mirrorless camera because the shutter is, there's the option of an electronic shutter. But when you're shooting with electronic shutter, you have to be careful about the sync of overhead lighting, especially fluorescent lights that have that flicker. So because of the slow sensor readout in electronic shutter mode, you can get banding pretty badly. And that was something that was happening to me on this particular day. But the solution to that is just slowing the shutter speed down, which I don't like doing, but luckily there wasn't a lot of fast motion. So I could get down to about 1/125th for this kind of shot, which is challenging because you really have to wait for the actors then to land in their spot with their expression. And again, they're not posing for me. They're working in the film. So this is a shot that I took, during filming while there was 3 other cameras operating, and I was standing behind a flag that, I almost couldn't even see the scene where I was taking it from.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good.
Yeah, so in this this is the showrunner, Dan Futterman, who was he did Capote. You can see that right down there. Wrote the screenplay for Capote, and he also wrote the screenplay for a movie called Foxcatcher that was shot up here. And he's a real interesting guy to talk to, because he is the showrunner is basically like the lead producer. And they're watching and making suggestions. They keep the continuity, and they know exactly where the story is going and how it unfolds. And so, the director is still directing the show, but the showrunner is sort of the overarching person, kind of looking over the whole thing.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Wish I had more to show right now, but it's still a bit early. And the different thing about this kind of work too is I'm work for hire, so I don't own any of the photos that I take. And so these kind of shows, while I may have a copy of this somewhere, I don't release anything. I even pull, I put that photo on my website, but I copied it off the newspaper site, not the original photo from from the files that I originally had access to.
Sure. Yeah. And that's the way a tear sheet would be. It's the best thing.
Yeah, basically, yeah, using it like a tear sheet like that. So,
yeah,
that's kind of, this is the very beginning part of what's going to be released later. So,
and this is currently running on Showtime or getting ready to run?
They haven't. From what I understand, it's going to be released this fall, but I'm not 100% sure. That's not really my department exactly. So, we hear things sometimes. I think they said that in the article too, that they were talking about a fall release, but I'm not sure yet. We're going to be filming until August.
And it's a series.
This is a series right now. It was greenlit for a full first season, which I think was originally 10 episodes. Now it's 9. And they're, I think, hoping for another season of this. There's a lot of conflict to work with. There's a lot of places to take the story to after this initial, when you get past the story of the novel.
Sure.
A lot of places to go. So it's been fun. It's a good sized production. We're shooting it as a, out of order, of course. So one day we might be working on one episode, and one day we work on a different episode.
Yeah, that's different than traditional television making too. When you're shooting for Netflix and Amazon and Showtime, they look at all nine shows as a single shoot. Like like Longmire. They would go up and shoot it. That's a single shoot, spliced down. Law and Order, they shot, it was every week. They got the script the week before. Then they'd have 2 weeks before, they'd have the read through, and then they'd shoot it.
There's a kind of blending with this kind of TV is closer to like a feature as far as the quality goes. You know, it's the same kind of lighting, same kind of cameras. It's more cinematic. Law and Order is more like a you know, a network show, which is a little bit less. You know, it's a little more. It's done a little quicker.
Yeah, I very much like these new this new way of making these films.
Well, I hope you like this show. I think it's going to be pretty
definitely
good.
going to check it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I think this is going to be a pretty big show for Showtime this year. I know that we had, if you read the article, it's all outlined in there too. We were set to shoot this last year, and then COVID hit, and they were like, "Oh, we'll just wait a couple weeks and wait it out." And it went like a week here, a week here, a week here, and then eventually it took a year to get back. So we're 1 year behind where we're supposed to be.
Well, good luck with that. Denise,
Yeah.
were you going to ask a question? I saw you come on. Denise? Oh, I guess she's gone. I saw her pop on for a second and pop off. Well, I'm going to let everybody go. It is great. Thank you so much here for being with us. There she is. Denise, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to say that I think what he's doing is really cool. You know, we have a big film industry in New Mexico too. And I just think it'd be very cool to be around the sets taking pictures.
Yeah, there's I know the still people in New Mexico. There's somebody named Ursula Coyote, and there's a few others. New Mexico is part of the 13 Western states, which I'm not allowed to work in because I'm in the Eastern region. Yeah, I'd have to, it's a union rule as far as like locations go. I could work technically anywhere, but it would cost them more. But to work in the Western states, you have to be what's called the LA roster. And to be on the roster, you have to have at least 30 days of on-set experience in a union show, which I've done, but I don't live in the region, so I can't work there anyway. So there's some strange rules.
Just a quick kind of funny story. My son worked on some movie sets one summer, and his job was snake wrangler. So,
yeah.
You know, for the outdoor sets, you know, he would walk around looking for all the places that he figured that snakes would hide, because he's an amateur herpetologist and regularly goes out and catches snakes and videos them and then releases them. So he had a good time making $30 an hour. That's not bad for a college kid.
That's you know what, that's a very important job, because when it's the snake wranglers are there for the crew, so we don't get bit. You know, if you get bit by a snake, that's the end of your day. And it depends on what your job is, that could be expensive to the production if they either miss shots or have to send a camera home, or someone's not there to do their job. So yeah, we oftentimes will send out snake wranglers or other kind of animals that are in the areas that we're shooting to keep it safe. You know, we are out in areas that, you know, I have these things that are called overshoes or muck boots. You know, you have regular boots on, then this is an overshoe that's waterproof up to your ankle. Because, you know, when you buy Gore-Tex boots, you learn pretty quickly that if you're standing in water, the water comes right through. They're not really waterproof.
They're water resistant, but they're not waterproof.
There's a huge difference between waterproof and water resistant. Yep. Enormous difference between the two. And if you're standing in water, you'll find out the difference really quickly. And I've stood in plenty of water. You know, the other thing we have to watch out for around here is ticks. You know, if you're out on location, you get a tick, you need to keep the tick and make sure it doesn't have Lyme disease. And, you know, there are, you know, like I said, it's like going in a battle. You have to be ready for all the conditions.
Yeah.
You know, or at least have your stuff nearby. That's really the big part of it. And I can't stress that if you go out even a small photo shoot and you're out in the heat, or you're out in the cold, or you're out in the wet, or out in the woods, you have to think about these things ahead of time. for your, your subject or for yourself or for your crew.
An absolute same thing, even if you're doing a tabletop, 4x4 tabletop, and you're shooting
Oh yeah.
wine or something, all the things that could go wrong, you have to have the solution ready now.
Yeah.
You're not going to win points by having to stop the shoot and I got to go to Target to get this thing that I need. Everything has got to be redundant. You have redundancies for your redundancies. Oh.
And when you're dealing with high profile people, they don't usually have time to mess about with you and your problems. They just need to get their thing done and move on to the next thing. And it's not because of their, ego or attitude. It's just they're busy. They're needed in two places at the same time. So, like last week I was telling you about that little I did some shots for an outside thing, but the actor was on set with us, so she couldn't find another, she couldn't fly to LA and use somebody else, so they had me do it, and they said basically you have 10 minutes, which is pretty generous on a film set to get 10 minutes with anyone. So we got the shot done in 4, because I had everything ready. I had already tested the lights, I found the location, everything was done. And so you don't need very much time when you work with people that are very good at giving expressions and doing the look. But if you're not ready and your 10 minutes goes by, then you've kind of blown it. And that's the kind of thing that gets around. That's drama right there. You made that thing about you and how you messed it up. Now it's like, we're not talking about how great the photos were. We're talking about how you messed it up and caused a delay. So, in the world of time is money, a film set is incredibly expensive. Yeah, I think that someone had calculated if you took a typical budget, typical runtime, that a film set costs about $1,000 a minute of shooting time, not on air time. I can't even imagine what that actually is. It's probably $10,000 a minute for on screen time. But when you have 300 people standing around, waiting for this or waiting for that, then it gets expensive to wait. We have a schedule that we stick to, and getting behind is not good. It's always better to be ahead or right on time.
Don, I was going to show you, I don't know if you saw in the mentorship group or not, that paper. Did you see the picture I posted of it?
Yeah.
It's not.
It printed well, you say?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Pretty inexpensive paper. 250 sheets for $20.
13.
13
through
bucks?
Amazon. Yeah.
That's pretty inexpensive. It's postcard paper for making mailers.
It's kind of hard to see because of the light coming down, but
yeah, very nice, man. Very nice.
Yeah, for the price, it'll definitely work to get something out there.
Absolutely. Everybody have a great one. Thank you so much, Dennis, for coming back on. I think we can post this one and not get you in trouble with half the actors in LA.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
It was just a couple of things that sometimes we don't talk about specifics because you never know how people can take it, even though he really didn't say anything disparaging. So
no, of course not.
Yeah. So anyway, everybody have a great one. We'll see you next time on Photo Talk Friday. Take care.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.